As we grow older, the journey through life is often marked by reflection. We reflect on the years gone by, the choices we made, the relationships we've built, and the lessons we've learned. This time of reflection should be a peaceful one, a time to embrace the wisdom that comes with age and the experiences that have shaped us. However, this peace can be disrupted when we allow the constant critic into our lives. The constant critic is someone who finds fault in almost everything. No matter what you do, no matter how much you give, or how hard you try, there is always something they can point out that isn't quite right. They might not always be vocal in an overtly aggressive way, but their words sting and their disapproval weighs heavily on your heart. And while they may present themselves as being concerned or even helpful, their words are anything but encouraging. Instead, they chip away at your confidence, leaving you questioning your every decision. In old age, we are supposed to be in a place of rest, both physically and emotionally. The last thing we need is a person who constantly points out flaws, mistakes, or imperfections in our lives. The constant critic often cloaks their negativity in the guise of concern. They may say things like, "I just want what's best for you," or "I'm only telling you this because I care." These statements may seem innocent enough, but the underlying tone is that nothing you do is ever good enough. They'll always find something to criticize, no matter how small or insignificant. And over time, this negativity starts to wear you down. The problem with the constant critic is that they rarely offer any constructive advice or support. Their focus isn't on lifting you up or helping you grow. Instead, they seek to find fault, to point out where you've gone wrong. In many cases, this criticism isn't even based on truth, but on their own insecurities or personal biases. They project their own dissatisfaction with life onto you, making you feel as if you are the problem, when in reality, they are the ones with the issue. Their judgmental nature can cloud your perception of your own worth, and it can lead you to believe that you are somehow inadequate or incapable of achieving the things you desire. Criticism is a part of life. It's inevitable, but there is a difference between constructive criticism and destructive criticism. Constructive criticism is meant to help us grow. It is offered with kindness, understanding, and a desire to see us improve. Destructive criticism, on the other hand, serves no purpose other than to tear us down. It is harsh, dismissive, and often personal. The constant critic falls into the latter category. They have a way of making us feel small, insignificant, and even unworthy of happiness. They have no intention of helping us become better. Instead, they seek to diminish our spirit and make us doubt ourselves. It is important to recognize the difference between someone who is genuinely concerned about our well-being and someone who is simply trying to control or manipulate us through criticism. The constant critic often has a subtle way of making us feel as though their opinions are the only ones that matter. They may dismiss our accomplishments, belittle our ideas, or undermine our decisions. This constant undermining can lead to feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt, both of which are dangerous, particularly in old age when we should be embracing our worth and dignity. In old age, we must be particularly careful about the people we allow into our lives. We have earned the right to enjoy our years in peace, surrounded by those who genuinely care about us and who seek to lift us up, not tear us down. The constant critic, however, has no regard for our peace or our emotional well-being. They thrive on negativity, and they have no issue dragging us into their world of judgment and dissatisfaction. Their criticism is like a weight that drags us down, making it harder to move forward with confidence and grace. The most damaging thing about the constant critic is that they often leave us questioning our self-worth. As we grow older, our sense of identity and purpose can sometimes feel fragile. We may find ourselves wondering if we still matter, if we still have something valuable to offer. The constant critic feeds on these insecurities, preying on our fears and doubts. They make us question not only our abilities, but also our very worth as individuals. This kind of mental and emotional strain can have a profound impact on our overall well-being, especially in our later years when we should be nurturing ourselves and finding joy in the present moment. What makes the constant critic even more insidious is that they may be people we love or are close to, family members, longtime friends, or even caregivers. These are people who, because of their proximity to us, can have a significant influence on how we see ourselves. When the criticism comes from someone we trust or care about, it can be even harder to escape. We may feel obligated to listen, to accommodate, or to defend our choices. But we must remember that just because someone is family or close to us doesn't mean that their opinions are always in our best interest. If their criticism is tearing us down, it is time to set boundaries and protect our hearts. The constant critic is a person who will rob you of your peace and joy, leaving you constantly striving to meet an unattainable standard. In the later years of life, we must choose peace over perfection, rest over relentless criticism, and joy over negativity. If you find yourself surrounded by constant critics, it is essential to recognize the damage they can do and make the necessary decision to distance yourself from their influence. Protect your peace, embrace the love of those who uplift and support you, and guard your heart from those who seek only to tear you down. As we age, we find ourselves reflecting on the relationships that have shaped our lives. The bonds that we form, whether with family, friends, or close acquaintances, become even more precious in our later years. In the quiet moments of old age, we often realize the value of surrounding ourselves with individuals who not only care about our well-being, but also share in the joy of our experiences. Yet, there are certain people who, instead of nurturing those bonds, draw from them for their own gain. These are the self-centered individuals, the people who make everything about themselves, leaving us feeling emotionally drained and neglected. The self-centered individual is someone who thrives on attention and validation, but only on their terms. In old age, our lives have often become less about constant hustle and more about finding peace and satisfaction in the present. We may have fewer responsibilities or commitments, and as a result, our time and energy are precious commodities. However, the self-centered person doesn't understand, or perhaps doesn't care, about the value of this time. Their need for attention and validation dominates every conversation, and they cannot seem to focus on anything beyond their own desires. This person may always have a story to tell, but it is always about them. Their conversations are one-sided, and no matter how much you may try to share your own experiences, they quickly steer the topic back to themselves. They will recount their triumphs, their troubles, and their opinions, often without regard for how much emotional energy you may have to give. In many ways, this person sees the world through a narrow lens, their lens. Everything revolves around their needs, their wants, and their feelings. The needs of others are often an afterthought, and their lack of empathy or understanding can leave you feeling like an after effect of a storm that has already passed through. Bruised, battered, and unheard, as we grow older, we begin to cherish relationships that bring mutual respect and understanding. We seek individuals who are willing to listen as much as they speak, those who genuinely care about what we have to say. Yet, the self-centered person isn't interested in this kind of relationship. They rarely take the time to understand what others need, and they certainly aren't interested in offering help or support unless it directly benefits them. They lack the emotional depth required to offer genuine connection, and instead are more focused on fulfilling their own emotional needs. The danger of the self-centered individual lies in the emotional toll they take on us. At a time in life when we may already be grappling with feelings of loneliness, vulnerability, or loss, their selfishness can exacerbate these feelings. The constant need for attention from someone who refuses to recognize our own needs can leave us feeling empty and neglected. We may begin to feel as though our time, energy, and love are only valued when they serve the other person's interests. The self-centered individual may never ask how you are doing or show interest in your well-being because they are too preoccupied with their own world. This can lead to a sense of isolation where you feel as though your presence is only relevant as long as it serves their agenda. What makes the self-centered individual even more difficult to deal with is that their behavior often masquerades as care. They may tell you that they're only talking about their own struggles because they want to get it off their chest, or that they need your company because they're feeling lonely. However, this seemingly innocent need for companionship is, more often than not, one-sided. They fail to recognize that a relationship is about give and take, not simply taking. In fact, when you find yourself in the company of a self-centered person, you may feel as though you are giving far more than you are receiving, and this imbalance can become increasingly draining over time. In old age, we should seek relationships that help us find meaning, purpose, and peace. The self-centered individual is not equipped to provide this. They are so focused on their own desires that they cannot give the emotional support or understanding that we need. While we may have a deep reservoir of love and wisdom to share, they may not be interested in anything other than what they can extract from us. This transactional approach to relationships makes it difficult to form any real connection, and the result is often a sense of unfulfillment. When we invest in relationships with self-centered individuals, we find ourselves losing a part of ourselves in the process. It's important to recognize that self-centeredness is not always an intentional flaw. For some, this behavior may be a result of deep insecurity or a lack of emotional maturity. The self-centered individual may not even realize the damage they are causing. They may have never learned how to engage in healthy, reciprocal relationships, and as such, they focus only on their own needs. However, regardless of the reason behind their behavior, the effect is the same. They take far more than they give. As we age, we should become more discerning about who we allow into our inner circle. We should seek people who nourish our spirits, who respect our boundaries, and who are willing to walk alongside us in times of joy and sorrow. The self-centered individual will never be able to offer this kind of companionship. Their emotional immaturity or selfishness will always stand in the way of a truly meaningful relationship. The longer we allow such people to occupy space in our lives, the more we risk losing our own sense of purpose and peace. Ultimately, the self-centered individual is not someone with whom we can build a deep, fulfilling connection. In our later years, we must prioritize relationships that enrich us, relationships where both parties give and receive love, respect, and care. The self-centered individual cannot offer this, and it is crucial to recognize this and set the necessary boundaries. By doing so, we protect ourselves from emotional exhaustion and create room for the kind of relationships that can truly enhance our later years. As we move into the later years of life, we often find ourselves becoming more reflective. With age comes wisdom, and we are afforded the opportunity to look back on a life filled with experiences, both joyful and painful. The years can be a time of peace and contentment, where we embrace the lessons of the past and focus on the blessings of the present. But this peace can be disturbed by the pessimist, the person who sees only the negative side of things and constantly reminds you that things could always be worse. The pessimist is someone who drags you into their gloomy perspective and finds it impossible to see the silver lining in any situation. The pessimist is the person who will point out every flaw, every hardship, and every potential failure, even when things are going well. In their mind, the glass is always half empty, and no matter how much you try to offer hope or encouragement, they will find a way to make you doubt your optimism. They see the world as a harsh, unforgiving place, and they are often quick to remind you of all the things that could go wrong. In the later years of life, when we are seeking peace and fulfillment, this constant negativity can be emotionally draining and mentally exhausting. The most challenging aspect of the pessimist is their ability to infect others with their outlook on life. They often convince themselves that their perspective is the most realistic one, and they will do everything in their power to bring those around them into their negative frame of mind. The pessimist thrives on uncertainty and fear, and they see the world not as a place of opportunity, but as a place where bad things are just waiting to happen. Their conversations are filled with what-ifs, coulds, and maybes, and they are always ready to share the worst-case scenario. If you talk about a new opportunity, a dream, or a hope for the future, the pessimist will quickly remind you of all the reasons it might fail. This constant focus on the negative can have a profound impact on our own emotional well-being. In old age, we are often more sensitive to the weight of life's challenges, whether it's health issues, the loss of loved ones, or the fear of the future. The last thing we need is someone constantly reminding us of what could go wrong, reinforcing our fears and anxieties. The pessimist feeds on these insecurities, amplifying them and making us feel as though the world is an unwelcoming, dangerous place. Rather than providing comfort, reassurance, or hope, the pessimist offers only doubt and despair. Over time, the presence of a pessimist can begin to erode our own sense of optimism. If we are not careful, their negative perspective can influence the way we see the world. We might begin to question whether our dreams are too unrealistic or whether we are being foolish to believe that good things can still happen. The pessimist makes us doubt our own sense of hope and confidence, convincing us that things will always be difficult or that there is no point in trying because failure is inevitable. Moreover, the pessimist often isolates themselves in their own negativity. Was the chief, they tend to surround themselves with others who share their dim view of the world, and they will actively push away anyone who challenges their perspective. They are uncomfortable with optimism, seeing it as naive or unrealistic, and they will go out of their way to undermine anyone who dares to believe that things can improve. In many cases, the pessimist's fear of disappointment or failure becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. By expecting the worst, they inadvertently block out any possibility of joy or success. They may even sabotage their own happiness, constantly anticipating problems instead of embracing the opportunities that come with each day. The danger of the pessimist in old age is that their negativity can cloud our ability to fully appreciate the present moment. As we grow older, we often find ourselves reflecting on the time we have left and the memories we are creating. In the company of a pessimist, however, it goes the chief. It becomes difficult to enjoy the good moments because their mindset is constantly focused on what might go wrong. The pessimist may point out all the dangers or potential risks in any situation, leaving us feeling anxious and fearful instead of grateful and at peace. This kind of emotional environment prevents us from fully engaging with the present and enjoying the blessings we still have. In the later years of life, was the chief, we should seek relationships that bring positivity and encouragement. We need people who will lift us up, who will see the possibilities and opportunities in the world, even when things are tough. The pessimist, however, is not capable of offering this kind of support. They are more likely to drag us down into their web of negativity and fear, leaving us feeling helpless and defeated. While it's natural for all of us to have moments of doubt and concern, the pessimist lives in a constant state of worry, never allowing themselves to experience the joy that comes with hope and belief in the future. There is no room for the pessimist in a life that should be focused on gratitude, peace, and joy. The constant negativity they bring only serves to cloud our vision, preventing us from fully appreciating the beauty of the present moment and the hope for the future. In old age, it's important to surround ourselves with people who remind us that life is still worth living, that joy can be found even in the smallest moments, and that there is always room for hope, no matter how dark the world may seem. The pessimist's presence in our lives can drain us of the energy and enthusiasm we need to face each day with purpose. In a world filled with challenges, it is essential to have people who help us see the light, who inspire us to keep moving forward with faith and confidence. The pessimist, however, only seeks to extinguish that light, leaving us to stumble in the darkness. It is crucial, particularly in old age, to protect our minds from the heart's and toxic influence of pessimism and to embrace the possibility of a bright and hopeful future. As we navigate the later stages of life, the relationships we form take on deeper significance. We find ourselves more selective about the people we allow into our lives, realizing that not all individuals have our best interests at heart. One of the most damaging types of individuals we may encounter is the manipulator. The manipulator is a person who uses subtle tactics to control, influence the chief, or deceive others for their own gain. They prey on the vulnerability and goodwill of others, often cloaking their intentions in the guise of kindness or concern. Unfortunately, in old age, we may be more susceptible to manipulation because of our desire for companionship, our need for support, or simply because we may not want to rock the boat. The manipulator, however, seeks to take advantage of these very needs for their own benefit. The manipulator's behavior is often subtle, so subtle that it can be difficult to detect at first. They do not usually show their true intentions outright. Instead, they weave a complex web of emotional appeals, guilt trips, and half-truths that leave you questioning your own judgment. At first, their tactics may seem harmless, offering help when you're in need, sharing their concerns, or playing the role of the carer or family member. But as time goes on, you begin to realize that their help comes at a cost, and that cost is often your own peace of mind or sense of autonomy. What makes the manipulator dangerous is their ability to disguise their selfish motives as acts of kindness. They are experts at playing on the emotions of others, particularly in moments of weakness or vulnerability. In old age, we may find ourselves experiencing periods of loneliness, isolation, or even physical decline. During these times, we are more likely to welcome the support of those around us. The manipulator is well aware of this, and they know how to exploit these moments to their advantage. They will offer their assistance. Mate was the chief, making you feel as if you are indebted to them for their generosity, but beneath the surface, there is often a hidden agenda. They may use your gratitude as leverage to gain more control over you, or they may slowly start to manipulate your decisions, making you feel as though you are unable to make choices without their input or approval. The manipulator thrives on power, and they seek to gain it in any way they can. They may use guilt as a tool, making you feel responsible for their well-being or success. Was the chief. They may say things like, "I've always been there for you, and now it's your turn to help me." Or, "After all I've done for you, you owe me." These statements, though often veiled as expressions of care, are manipulative at their core. They are designed to make you feel obligated or guilty. Was the chief, forcing you into a position where you feel as though you cannot say no without letting them down or betraying them. Another common tactic used by manipulators is playing on your emotions, particularly fear, guilt, and sympathy. They may create scenarios where you feel as though something terrible will happen if you don't comply with their wishes. For instance, they may exaggerate their own troubles or hardships, making you feel as though their emotional well-being is in your hands. They might say things like, "I can't do this without you," or "If you don't help me, I don't know how I'll manage." These types of statements create a sense of urgency and make you feel responsible for their emotional state. As a result, you may find yourself making decisions that are not in your best interest, all because you fear the consequences of not complying with their demands. One of the most insidious aspects of manipulation is that it erodes your self-esteem and sense of autonomy. Over time, the manipulator's tactics can make you feel as though you are incapable of making decisions on your own. You begin to question your own judgment, unsure of whether your choices are truly your own or whether they have been subtly influenced by someone else. Was the chief. The manipulator seeks to diminish your confidence in yourself, making you believe that you cannot function without their guidance or approval. This slow erosion of your self-reliance can leave you feeling helpless, as if you are entirely dependent on the manipulator for emotional support. Companionship or decision-making in old age, the chief. This kind of manipulation can be particularly dangerous because it plays on our deepest fears and insecurities. We may be worried about our physical decline, our financial security, or our place in the world. The manipulator uses these fears to their advantage, weaving them into their tactics of control. They may tell you you need them because no one else will look after you, or that your life would be worse without them. This creates a false sense of dependency, making it harder for you to break free from their influence. The manipulator's ultimate goal is to control you. They may not always be overt in their methods, but over time, you may begin to feel as though you have lost control over your own life. The manipulator may begin to make decisions for you, undermine your choices, and exert influence over your every move. In many cases, they will isolate you from others, ensuring that their control is the only influence you are exposed to. Their name was the chief. They may discourage relationships with people who could challenge their authority or who might encourage you to stand up for yourself. It is essential to recognize the manipulator's tactics and understand the impact they can have on your life. Was the chief, while they may appear caring and concerned on the surface, their true intentions are selfish and self-serving. The manipulator's need for control can be all-consuming, and they will stop at nothing to maintain their grip on your life. In old age, we must protect ourselves from such individuals by setting boundaries and asserting our autonomy. We should surround ourselves with people who respect our decisions, honor our independence, and support us without seeking to control us. Ultimately, the manipulator will never have your best interests at heart. They seek to use you for their own gain, and their tactics will leave you feeling drained, confused, and emotionally exhausted. Recognizing manipulation early on is crucial to preserving your peace and emotional well-being, particularly as you grow older and become more vulnerable to outside influences. By protecting yourself from manipulative individuals, you can ensure that your later years are filled with true companionship, respect for the chief, and the freedom to make choices that align with your own values and desires in the later years of life. As we begin to reflect on the many experiences that have shaped us, the people around us become even more important. The relationships we form in old age can bring us peace, joy, and a sense of fulfillment, but unfortunately, there are individuals who can drain us emotionally, leaving us feeling empty and unappreciated. One such person is the narcissist. The narcissist is an individual whose sense of self-worth is inflated to an unhealthy degree. They have an overwhelming need for admiration and attention, and they are often incapable of truly empathizing with others. This person can be particularly damaging to our emotional well-being in our later years, as their self-centeredness creates a one-sided, draining dynamic in relationships. The narcissist is, at their core, deeply insecure. Despite the outward appearance of confidence, they are often fragile and vulnerable, unable to handle criticism or rejection. They cover up these insecurities with a facade of superiority, demanding constant admiration and validation from those around them. In old age, when we are more reflective and less willing to engage in unnecessary drama, the narcissist's need for attention becomes especially exhausting. They will monopolize conversations, never allowing you to express your own feelings, thoughts, or experiences without turning it back to themselves. Their egotistical behavior makes it difficult to build any meaningful connection with them, as the relationship is always on their terms, centered around their needs and desires. A hallmark of the narcissist is their lack of genuine empathy. They are not able to understand or care about the emotions or needs of others. Instead, they view people as tools to serve their own interests, manipulating those around them to maintain their inflated sense of self-worth. This is especially troubling in old age, when many of us are dealing with physical decline, emotional vulnerability, and the complexities of aging. The narcissist, however, is not interested in providing support or compassion. Their world revolves around their own needs, and they are incapable of offering the empathy and understanding that are so vital in close relationships. The narcissist's behavior often manifests in subtle, yet damaging ways. They will seek out validation from others. Was the chief constantly fishing for compliments or attention? If you try to redirect the conversation or shift focus to something other than them, they will often become irritated or dismissive. Their sense of entitlement is staggering. They believe they deserve special treatment and will go to great lengths to ensure that they receive it. In old age, when our capacity for patience and energy is diminished, the narcissist's insatiable need for admiration can feel like a heavy burden. You may find yourself constantly catering to their desires, offering compliments or validating their every word, simply to avoid conflict or to gain a fleeting moment of peace. The narcissist thrives on manipulation, often using guilt as a tool to control others. They may accuse you of not caring enough about them, of being selfish or ungrateful for their attention. This can leave you feeling as though you are the one at fault, even though the narcissist's behavior is unreasonable. They will exploit any emotional vulnerability you have, twisting the situation to make themselves the victim. The narcissist's emotional manipulation can be so powerful that it leaves you doubting your own sense of reality. They can make you feel as though you owe them everything, that your life would be meaningless without their presence. This psychological toll is particularly dangerous in old age, as we are often more susceptible to feelings of isolation, regret, and the fear of being alone. Moreover, the narcissist's constant need for praise can create a toxic dynamic in relationships. They are never satisfied, always seeking more attention, more admiration, more validation. No matter how much you give, it will never be enough. They will drain your emotional resources, leaving you feeling unappreciated and taken for granted. This is particularly difficult for those in their later years, when we are more aware of the limited time we have and are looking for relationships that offer mutual respect and care. The narcissist, however, can never provide this. They are incapable of true, reciprocal love because their relationships are based on what they can get, not what they can give. The narcissist is also likely to exploit the vulnerabilities that come with aging. They may prey on the fear of decline, offering superficial assurances or creating situations in which you feel obligated to rely on them. In some cases, they may even use your aging process as a way to manipulate you further, suggesting that you owe them something in return for their help or support. This creates an unhealthy power dynamic where the narcissist feels entitled to control and influence every aspect of your life. They may undermine your sense of independence, making you feel as though you cannot manage without them. This loss of autonomy is especially painful in old age, when many are already struggling with the reality of physical decline and the need for assistance. What makes the narcissist even more dangerous is their ability to charm and deceive others. They can appear incredibly charismatic and persuasive, winning over those around them with their charm and confident demeanor. They know how to make others feel special, and they use this ability to manipulate and control. In many cases, the narcissist may present themselves as the perfect friend or confidant, offering advice or support when in reality they are only looking to further their own agenda. This makes it incredibly difficult for those around them to recognize the harm they are causing. The narcissist is a master at creating a facade of kindness, making it hard for others to see their true nature until it is too late. The impact of the narcissist on our emotional health in old age can be profound. The constant need for validation, the manipulation, the lack of empathy, all of these behaviors can take a toll on our mental and emotional well-being. We may begin to feel exhausted, emotionally depleted, and even unsure of our own worth. In our later years, we should prioritize relationships that nourish us, not those that drain us. The narcissist, however, is incapable of offering the kind of love and care we need. Instead, they consume everything in their path, leaving us feeling insignificant and unimportant. It is crucial to recognize the narcissist for who they are and to protect ourselves from their harmful influence. Setting boundaries and limiting their access to our lives can help preserve our emotional well-being and ensure that we surround ourselves with people who offer genuine support and care. The narcissist may not be capable of offering this kind of relationship, but we can seek out those who can. A relationship built on respect, empathy, and mutual understanding as we reflect on the 5 types of people we must avoid in our later years, whether they be the user, the pessimist, the manipulator, the narcissist, or others who diminish our emotional well-being. We realize how crucial it is to safeguard our peace and mental health. In old age, we should seek relationships that uplift, nurture, and respect our autonomy, not those that drain us, manipulate us, or cause unnecessary stress. The people we surround ourselves with play an essential role in determining the quality of our lives as we age. Toxic relationships, whether rooted in selfishness, negativity, or manipulation, can rob us of our joy, peace, and dignity. It's important to recognize the signs of these negative behaviors early and take steps to protect ourselves from such influences. While it may be challenging to distance ourselves from family members or longtime friends who exhibit these harmful traits, our well-being must take precedence. Setting boundaries, surrounding ourselves with those who encourage our growth, and prioritizing genuine, supportive relationships can bring balance and happiness to our later years. The key to a fulfilling and peaceful old age lies in maintaining our self-respect, autonomy, and emotional health. We must never forget that, even in our later years, we are deserving of kindness, respect, and care. As we navigate this stage of life, let us focus on cultivating connections that celebrate who we are and offer support in meaningful ways, allowing us to embrace each day with gratitude, hope, and a renewed sense of purpose.